You open the conversation. Not because you got a new message, there isn't one. You open it because you've opened it before. And you scroll back, maybe to a specific part, maybe you don't even know which part, just back. You read the words again. Words you've already read 10, 20, 100 times, and something in you is still searching. Still looking for something in those messages that isn't quite there. Or maybe it is there, and you just can't hold it. This isn't nostalgia exactly. It's something more restless than that, more urgent. Millions of people do this, after a breakup, after a fight, after someone goes quiet, after something ended without enough words. Psychologists have spent years studying this behavior, and what they found reveals something important, not just about what you're doing, but about what your mind is trying to do for you. The first thing to understand is that your brain hates incompleteness. Not in a picky perfectionist way, in a deep biological way. The brain is a pattern completion machine. When a story ends without resolution, when a conversation ends without closure, when a relationship ends without understanding, the brain keeps running the same loop, over and over, trying to find the missing piece. Psychologists call this rumination. It's the mind's attempt to process something it hasn't fully processed yet. And here's what's important. Rereading old conversations is almost never about the past. It's about an open loop that the brain is still trying to close. You're not going back to remember. You're going back to resolve. In 1927, psychologist Zeigarnik discovered something remarkable. People remember unfinished tasks far better than completed ones. The mind holds on to what isn't done. It keeps returning to what wasn't resolved. This is now called the Zeigarnik Effect, and it explains why you can forget 100 conversations but can't forget this one, because it isn't finished. Not emotionally. Not in any way that matters to the part of you that's still waiting. But why do some people do this more than others? Attachment theory, the framework developed by John Bowlby and extended by researchers Mary Ainsworth and Mary Main, gives us a powerful answer. How we learn to connect with our earliest caregivers shapes how we process connection as adults. When a child grows up with consistent, responsive care, they develop what's called secure attachment. They learn that connection is reliable, that people come back, that silence isn't danger. But when care was inconsistent, present sometimes, absent others, warm one day, distant the next, the child's nervous system learns something different. It learns that connection requires vigilance, that you have to monitor the relationship constantly because the ground could shift at any moment. This is anxious attachment, and one of its most consistent patterns is hypervigilance to social cues. People with anxious attachment don't just read messages. They analyze them, they look for what wasn't said. They replay conversations trying to find the moment things shifted. They reread because somewhere inside, they learn that paying close enough attention might protect them from being caught off guard again. Rereading old conversations is, in this sense, a form of emotional preparation, a way of staying ready, a way of not being surprised by loss again. Here's what no one really talks about. When you reread old messages, you are usually looking for one of three things. The first is evidence, something in the text that confirms what you felt was real, that the warmth was real, that the connection was real, that you didn't imagine it. The second is explanation, a moment you missed, a sentence that explains why it ended the way it did, a sign you overlooked, something that would make the ending make sense. The third is contact, the sensation of being close to the person again, of hearing their voice in the words, of feeling for a moment that the distance isn't quite as final. And sometimes it's all three at once. Researcher Kross, who studies emotional experience, found that this kind of mental return, revisiting painful or unresolved emotional content, activates the same neural pathways as the original experience. Which means rereading doesn't just remind you of the feeling, it regenerates it. Every time you open the conversation, you are not just remembering, you are re-experiencing. And the brain, seeking relief, goes back looking for something that will finally resolve the feeling. But the messages don't change. They never say anything new. And so the loop continues. What this behavior reveals is not weakness. It reveals an unfulfilled need for closure. Psychologist Roy Baumeister, in his research on meaning-making, found that human beings have a fundamental drive to create coherent narratives from their experiences. When something ends without explanation, a relationship, a friendship, a conversation that just stopped, the mind can't build a complete story. And without a complete story, it can't file the experience away. It keeps it active, keeps returning to it, hoping the ending will finally arrive. This is not obsession. This is the mind doing exactly what minds do, trying to understand, trying to make sense of an experience that didn't give it enough to work with. There is something worth saying about the world we live in now. For most of human history, conversations disappeared. You said something, the other person heard it, and then it was gone. No record, no transcript, no way to go back. The argument you had, gone. The moment someone told you they loved you, gone. The last thing you said before things changed, gone. We are the first generation of human beings who can return to our own conversations, who can scroll back to the exact moment something shifted, who can read word for word the last thing someone said to us before they went silent. This is genuinely new, and we haven't fully understood yet what it does to us. Before smartphones, grief over a lost relationship meant grieving a person who existed in your memory. Imperfect, softened by time, reshaped slowly into something you could carry. Now the person exists in your phone, exactly as they were. Their words preserved perfectly, their tone unchanged, their presence just a scroll away. And the brain, which was never designed for this, doesn't know what to do with it. Psychologists are only beginning to study what they call digital grief, the unique experience of losing someone while their messages remain. It is a different kind of loss, because the evidence of connection is still there, but the connection itself is not. And so you return to the archive, looking for the person inside the words they left behind. Research by psychologist Susan Nolen-Hoeksema found something consistent across thousands of people. Women tend to ruminate more than men, not because they are weaker, not because their emotions are less controlled, but because, from an early age, girls are more often encouraged to sit with their feelings, to talk about them, to examine them, and boys are more often encouraged to do something, to act, to move, to fix. This creates two very different relationships with internal emotional experience. One that turns inward, stays, and circles. One that externalizes, acts, and escapes. Neither is fully right, neither is fully wrong. But the person who rereads old conversations is usually the person who is taught that understanding comes from looking closer, from going back, from examining. And that instinct isn't wrong. Understanding does come from reflection. The problem is that reflection needs a direction. Without one, it becomes a loop. And a loop isn't healing. A loop is just motion without arrival. Nolen-Hoeksema also found something important. Rumination doesn't lead to insight. In study after study, people who spent the most time going over what went wrong understood it no better than people who spent less time. What they had was more pain, more certainty that something was wrong with them, more exhaustion, but not more clarity. Because the mind doesn't produce clarity by running the same material again and again. It produces clarity when it approaches the material differently. So what actually helps? Kross, the same researcher who found that revisiting painful experiences reactivates them, also found something remarkable about how to step outside them. He called it distanced self-talk. When we're inside an emotional experience, we talk to ourselves in the first person. I feel this. I can't understand why. Why did this happen to me? But when we address ourselves by name, when we say, what is actually going on here? What does this person need right now? Something shifts. The brain moves from experiencing to observing, from being inside the feeling to standing slightly outside it. And from that position, just a small distance, the same material looks different. Not less painful, different. There is something else that helps, and it is simpler than it sounds. Telling someone. Not the whole story, not an explanation, not a justification. Just saying out loud or in writing what those messages actually meant to you. Because one of the reasons we return to old conversations is that we never processed them with anyone. We carried them silently. We folded them up and put them somewhere and kept opening them alone. And silence, over time, doesn't heal experience. It preserves it, exactly as it was, undigested, unchanged. Psychologist James Pennebaker spent decades studying what happens when people write about difficult experiences. Not to solve them, not to explain them, just to put them into words. He found consistent results. People who wrote about painful events showed measurable improvements in well-being, not because writing gave them answers, but because it gave the experience a shape that could be held, filed, and eventually released. The conversation you keep returning to is looking for a shape. It hasn't found one yet. And that is why you keep going back. If you do this, there is something worth sitting with carefully. What are you actually looking for in those messages? Not on the surface, underneath. Because often what we're searching for isn't in the conversation at all. It's the feeling we wanted to walk away with and never got. Understanding, being truly known, having it acknowledged that what happened mattered. The conversation can't give you that now, but knowing what you're actually looking for is the first step toward finding it somewhere that can. Some people reread because they're looking for permission to grieve. Some because they need confirmation that what they felt was real. Some because they haven't yet told anyone what those messages meant to them. And that's worth knowing. Not because it will stop you from opening the conversation again, but because understanding why you do something changes your relationship with it. You're not stuck. You're searching, and the fact that you're searching means you haven't given up on understanding what happened to you. That's not a flaw. That is very human. And if somewhere, quietly, you're still waiting for the message that explains everything, maybe what you really need isn't an explanation. Maybe what you need is someone to sit with you in the not knowing and tell you that you are worth more clarity than you were given. If this found you somewhere real, leave something in the comments. You're not the only one who's opened that conversation tonight. And if you want to keep exploring the psychology of things you feel but rarely name, subscribe. There's more here waiting for you.